Hi, welcome to another episode of What's Up with DJ, and my name is DJ. Each week, I bring you topics about current events, money, career development, humor, and inspiration. So, I start each episode with a little segment called What's Still Cooking, and it gives me a chance to talk about things that have happened over the last week that I may have watched, read, experienced that still may be lingering on my mind. So, what's still cooking for me? So, a mother who's 30 years old decided to spend the day as her seventh grade daughter. So she dressed as her daughter, went to her school, and attended all her seventh grade classes. And she says that she did it because she wanted to test the school's security.
We need better security at our schools. And I said, for a social experiment. I stayed because, look, no one noticed I was there. That is a problem.
Well, ultimately, throughout the day, one of the teachers did ask her, I don't think you're the daughter.
And she looked at me and she's like, you're not Julie. I took off my mask, I took off my glasses, and I said, no, I'm not Julie. I'm Julie's mom.
And then the mother explained to her that, to the teacher, that she was in fact not the daughter, she was the mother. And then she went home. Well, the following day, the police showed up at Miss Garcia's house and arrested her for trespassing. So, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, who will be stepping down as CEO July 5th, has announced this week he and his brother will be heading into outer space next month. Bezos posted on his Instagram, ever since I was 5 years old, I've dreamed of traveling to outer space. On July 20th, I will take that journey with my brother, the greatest adventure, with my best friend. Rich people have the life. They really do. I wonder how much does it cost to fly into space? Well, I'm sure if they're going to the I'm not sure if they're going to the moon or not, are going to some particular destination, but reports say that Jeff Bezos and his brother, Mark Bezos, plan to head 62 miles above Earth. The Bezos brothers will be on the first human flight of the New Shepard spacecraft, which is made by a company named Blue Origin. The company is currently auctioning one of the six available seats aboard the flight, which will last 11 minutes. Wow, just 11 minutes. The capsule will launch from Van Horn, Texas, as I said earlier, July 20th. So I'm interested in in knowing just how much does it cost, or how much. I mean, he's a billionaire, so it really probably is not a whole lot of money in his mind. He's probably thinking that, hey, this is a penny in the bucket. So we've arrived at our main topic this week. So Vice President Kamala Harris has been under fire this week. She's been getting it from both sides of the aisle due to comments she made at the joint press conference with Guatemalan President Alejandro Giammattei in her first visit abroad since being appointed by President Biden to lead the administration's efforts to get the southern border crisis under control due to a record breaking number of unaccompanied minors crossing the southern border since President Biden took office. She met criticism due to her comments.
At the same time, I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come.
So, the progressive Democratic New York representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez criticized Vice President Kamala Harris for saying undocumented migrants from Guatemala should not come to the U.S., Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, "This is disappointing to see. First, seeking asylum at any U.S. border is 100% legal. It's a legal method of arrival. Second, the U.S. spent decades contributing to regime change and destabilization in Latin America. We can't help set someone's house on fire and then blame them for fleeing."
Here's the thing. I've been working on this issue for a very long time. And the kind of violence and danger that is associated with that trek, especially when we're talking about from Guatemala through Mexico to the United States, it's extremely dangerous. And the reason that I am in Guatemala is to address the reasons people leave home, flee.
So why not visit the border? Why not see what Americans are seeing in this crisis?
Well, we are going to the border. We have to deal with what's happening at the border. There's no question about that. That's not a debatable point. But we have to understand that there's a reason people are arriving at our border and ask what is that reason, and then identify the problem so we can fix it.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
Well, I mentioned it because I know Republicans have certainly come at you on.
Okay, so I do agree with the vice president traveling from Guatemala to the U.S. southern border. Probably those immigrants have traveled mostly by foot, and it is a dangerous trip, I would imagine, for any minor or anyone, perhaps, I would think. So Republicans have this to say about Vice President Harris's trip to Guatemala. The former U.S. Border Patrol Chief and Deputy Commissioner was on Mornings with Maria, and this is what he had to say. And by the way, what the hell is going on with Maria Bartiromo's lips?
All right, what is going on in Guatemala? That was Vice President Kamala Harris now saying she will go to the border after drawing criticism from all sides following her first overseas trip. First, she told Lester Holt she went to the border until he said, well, you went to the border. She said, no, I haven't gone to Europe either. Former U.S. Border Patrol Chief and Deputy Commissioner Ronald Vitiello joins me right now to talk more about it. Ron, thanks very much for being here. Your assessment of the Vice President's trip.
Well, I'm wondering what's so funny. You know, they have a crisis on the border that started on January 21st, and she seems to be, making her laugh every time she's asked about it. So I'm wondering why it's so hilarious that we have to laugh about visiting the border. Why doesn't she go there? Because the mayors and the sheriffs and the people who are in leadership along the border are going to ask her some very tough questions. Why did you let this happen? Why did you reverse the policies that were keeping the border under control and not having a crush of humanity at the border? Why did you reverse that without being prepared, without giving the augmentation that was required for HHS shelters and Border Patrol stations? Why did you do that? That's a tough question for her to answer. I don't think it's funny, but I think it's very hard for her to answer.
So I think both parties have unrealistic ideas about how to handle immigration reform. But I do agree with Vice President Harris when she says we have to first address the root causes to understand why so many are coming to the U.S. southern border from Guatemala. In order to develop a realistic solution, you have to understand the root causes. I think it would have been better if Vice President Harris would have visited the U.S. border first. Do you think it was a PR mistake for Vice President Harris to visit Guatemala before heading to the U.S. border. So leave your comments, or you can send your comments to dj@djcareercoach.com. And I'll leave with this final clip.
That if we care about what's happening at the border, we better care about the root causes and address them. And so that's what I'm doing.
So here's part of the show where I offer you practical life hacks that will hopefully make life a bit more efficient. I found by fine-tuning the little things in daily life can make life more fulfilling and fun. So, due to the pandemic, I'm sure parents have been experiencing plenty of sibling rivalries and household fights between their kids, and moms have to come up with imaginative ways to keep peace amongst siblings. Well, a mom came up with a great way to stop her two sons from fighting. She tweeted, "Told my kids they were allowed to hit each other once per day, so they should really think it through and not waste their one hit." and now they're really calmly discussing when might be the best time to hit each other. But actually, the hitting has stopped. She says this piece of insight was ingenious. And another mother replied with one of her ways to make her son brush his teeth each night. And she replied, "One time I forgot to put money under my son's pillow in exchange for a tooth. When her son was wondering why he didn't get any money from the tooth fairy, she told him because he didn't brush his teeth at night and the tooth had a cavity and the tooth fairy only collects good teeth." She says he now regularly brushes after he didn't receive any money from the tooth fairy. Do you have any life hacks that you would like to share to keep your household in order? If you do, you can send them to dj@djcareercoach.com. The email address will be in the show description. So, in our effort to bring you inspiration, hope, and humor, we've come to the bright side of life segment of our show. So I was outside of my house just relaxing and contemplating, and a thought came to my mind, and that thought was how nature sees beauty in all things. So nature values the vivid and vibrant colors of the butterfly no more than the dull and drab characteristics of the moth. It sees no difference in status or echelon. We as humans often compare the prince to the pauper, but in its wisdom, the hurricane has the same value as a gentle breeze. So when we begin to compare ourselves to others, know this: nature sees the value in all things. So there's our show for the week. I'm so happy you stayed to the end. Please join me next week for another episode. In the meantime, you can stay in contact with me by emailing dj@djcareercoach.com. And again, that's dj@djcareercoach.com. I will leave the links to my social media in the show description. And be sure, remember, to subscribe, like, comment, and leave a review. Until next week, bye.